Stanford University. It is full of brilliant people and run by really wise people. That's what the public is supposed to think. But what you've seen is that the left, like the virus of the brain that it is destroying all of these institutions entirely. They were always left-leaning. Now the inmates entirely run the asylum. That's what's happening. And this has been growing and getting more and more obvious for years now. Judge Kyle Duncan, federal judge on the Fifth Circuit, was invited by the Federalist Society to go speak at Stanford University Law School. Now, the people, the students in the Stanford University Law School, you're to think have the highest LSAT scores, are of the highest character and integrity, and are absolutely devoted to the Constitution and the rule of law. That's what you're supposed to think. In reality, you have a bunch of lunatic, left-wing, woke social justice activists, many of whom have gotten in there, honestly, with highly mediocre scores on all these things. Or if they even did well, it's because they just learned how to play the system in school and get the grades they need to get by holding the opinions and the positions that you're supposed to. And there's a whole video. It's quite long online. You can see of the speech. Students, law students at Stanford Law School were standing up. This is the second most elite law school in the country. And they had signs written. This is for a visiting federal judge. You'd think maybe even if they disagree with them, whatever, they would want to at least hear what the sitting federal judge has to say about the Constitution and the law. But of course they don't. To say they heckled him is an understatement. They shouted over him. They screamed profanity at him. They talked about him and his wife and sexuality. I mean, things I cannot repeat on the radio. This is how they speak. This is how, oh, they're so smart. They're amazing. Stanford Law School, hire them to the best law firms in the country. This is how this collection of woke imbeciles acted. But what makes it even worse is that there was, he asked for a Judge Duncan. Now, fortunately, Judge Duncan, I believe, did have marshals there. So at least he doesn't, you would think, have to worry about his physical safety, or he has some level of protection for his physical safety. These are all woke, overgrown babies. None of them have ever been in a fist fight in their lives, which unfortunately is part of the problem. A lot of woke people are used to being very aggressive in places where the administration will protect them, or they're very aggressive online. They don't have to deal with another human being in a context where the power is not entirely on the side of the woke aggressor who's saying, really? Why don't you, say that again? What did you say? Say that to my face. Come a little closer. All these deeply unhappy woke maniacs go through life without ever actually dealing with real conflict or the threat of real conflict. And they think they're brave. They're the one that shows up at the end of the bar fight shouting, yeah, that's right. You're lucky I didn't get in there. That's the mindset of the woke. But they brought along this diversity and inclusion dean. This is an administrator, a bureaucrat, probably making 150 to 250K to, waltz around from classroom to classroom, building to building, and tell everybody about how racist everything is and how you better agree with everything she says or else you're racist too. And just feeds all the most destructive grievance politics of the student body, of minority students. Oh, it's so hard. Oh my gosh, I'm a Latino student. I'm a black student at Stanford. I'm so oppressed. I have McKinsey and Goldman Sachs offering me $180,000 my first year out of school. It's been so hard. And the diversity dean existed to say, yes. You got in here with SATs 300 points lower than many of your colleagues and aren't paying a dime to go to this school that costs some of the, upper middle class kids who are going, cost their parents $65,000, $70,000 a year. You're going for free, but you're very oppressed. And you should be very upset at the system. And you better make sure that when you go to Goldman Sachs or when you go to McKinsey or Bain or when you take a job at, Wachtell or whatever. These are law school students, right? So they're going to go to law firms. That you make sure that diversity and inclusion is the top of the agenda there too. Oh, okay. So this dean shows up while the judge is trying, and you've got to see the video. Well, you know what? We should put it up at clayandbuck.com so anyone who's watching this can see it, and you can watch it. It's horrific. I mean, the things that they were saying, I would never say to any adult. It was a disgrace, an utter disgrace, honestly. And I wish I could say, but I know there's family and kids listening and everything to the show. So, and we also have FCC rules. But if I could even just read to you what the signs were that they were holding up while they were shouting him down, they didn't let him speak. They didn't let him get out a word. They'd go, and they'd yell over him. Then this dean comes over, and it's an ambush. She had a speech written out, and here is just a section. This is an employee of Stanford University whose job is, you would think, to be the adult in the room. Here she is, Tyrion Angela Steinbach. Play clip 12.
I really do wholeheartedly welcome you because me and many people in this administration do absolutely believe in free speech. We believe that it is necessary. We believe that the way to address speech that feels abhorrent, that feels harmful, that literally denies the humanity of people, that one way to do that is with more speech and not less, and not to shut you down or censor you or censor the student group that invited you here. That is hard, that is uncomfortable, and that is a policy and a principle that I think is worthy of defending even in this time. And again, I still ask, is the juice worth the squeeze?
She is lecturing him on how much the idiot leftist ideology that she represents values free speech when she is in a room of people who are shouting him down every time he tries, and intentionally shouting him down every time he tries to say anything. He would try to speak, they would all start screaming and say, shut up, and all kinds of curses, and they were challenging the judge's sexual capabilities. I don't know what else to say, folks. That's what they're doing. A federal judge. These are law school students who are questioning his manhood, shouting it out of you. Now, what do you think would happen if a group of Federalist Society students, which they would never do this because the Federalist Society is intellectual and is very respectful, and is something that campuses should all celebrate and should grow on campuses. But anyway, what would happen if a group of students associated with the Federalist Society, when a female minority judge showed up, all started shouting over her and saying, well, did you get your job because you're qualified, or did you get your job because of affirmative action? And then said, well, Joe Biden, for example, said he was only going to appoint a female black Supreme Court justice. So it seems fair to ask, is this something that happens elsewhere in the system? Did you, just for the purposes of discussion here, female minority judge, did you get this because you did so well in the LSATs that are such a brilliant lawyer, or because of identity politics? What do you think would happen if those students not only asked that question, but shouted down every time she tried to answer? They would be expelled. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. You know what Stanford University did here? Oh, it's so elite. The students are so smart. Put out some letter. This is a violation. This is a violation of student policy of the campus, and we apologize for the disruption, and this should not have happened. And so, yes, there's an apology. I mean, that's it. Nothing. They also put out a notice to the students that if they felt emotionally harmed by this, they should go speak to a dean about it. Like the dean who was a part of the ambush here. Now, you might say, well, Buck, this is Stanford. Maybe it's not as... Oh, no, this is at every school now. This is all over the place. And we can either fight it, or they can brainwash your kids. And if they can't brainwash your kid, they're going to persecute your kid when he or she gets to college. They're either going to be able to brainwash them, or they're going to punish them for not going along with this lunatic ideology. But more to the point here, and this is all to the point, I guess, these supposedly elite institutions are not that anymore. Wokeness, D and I, or DEI, these policies of the left have made these places really, for those who know, a laughingstock. Now, they still have a lot of cultural cachet and power and influence, and there's a lot of powerful, rich companies are going to recruit out of them, but it takes a long time. You know, this is an iceberg that is melting, and it'll take time, but the iceberg is melting, my friends. These places are no longer what they once, at least, were believed to be, which is institutions that at some level aspire to foster excellence. Nope, that's not the. Now it's just a little factory of Marxism. That's what these colleges have become.